Okay, great. All right. Well, hello, and welcome everybody to the American Promise Training in Action series. My name is Laura Nittmeyer, and I'm the volunteer state coordinator for American Promise in California. We're a national cross-partisan network of citizens working to ratify a 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to end outsized influence of global corporations and wealthy concentrated interests in American politics. I'm hosting this organizing event that forwarded 28th Amendment team training call tonight. And welcome to our new and returning members. I know we have at least 2 new people here tonight. The purpose of this organizing event team is to, first of all, inspire you about the importance of spreading our message and getting people to action to win the 28th Amendment through organizing events. Secondly, to help you be a more confident and articulate event organizer for our work. And thirdly, to provide a structure of ongoing support to assist you in succeeding in this goal. I'm going to hold off on introductions for just a minute. If you check your name on Zoom and you know how to change it, go ahead and add your city or state next to your name so that we can see it. Thanks a lot. And okay, tonight's session is the 3rd call in the series on events. There have been 5 types of training teams this year, and other topics covered at these meetings have been friend banking, meeting with elected officials, writing letters to the editor, and social media. And each of these teams has recorded some great work. So I've copied and pasted the sign-up page in the chat at the top of the chat box here to sign up for other calls. You may help build these teams by making sure that people in your chapter or other people who want to make a difference know about these action team opportunities and have the link to sign up. Thank you. So tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about planning for next year. And let's see, I have the slides. I may not use them. Let's see.
Maybe someone else could put the
new message
in the chat, because I don't think it's visible.
I have this in the chat. I have.
I think if it's entered before people join, sometimes it's not visible to them.
Oh, they don't see them. Okay, yeah. But they can still download the chat later and get the full information, or I guess we can repost that.
I'll repost it.
Okay, thank you. Because you can see it, right, Marie?
I can't yet, but let me see if I download it. Nope, I can't.
Okay. Why don't I do it towards the end?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, they're definitely there. I thought I was so smart pre-loading my chat box with the 2 things I wanted to share. Okay. All right. We definitely don't need a timer going off in my office. Okay. What I was saying is we're going to talk about planning for next year. And I have, let me see if I can share the screen. I have just a couple of just a few slides, and we may not use any of them. So strategic planning for next year, how you will contribute to Congress passing our amendment in 2022. And this is the discussion outline. So we'll start with our timeline for getting the amendment ratified and how we can contribute to reaching this goal. And then we'll talk about what we mean by events, which is really a broad range of ideas, and why this is part of our strategy to win the 28th Amendment. Then we'll introduce ourselves, where we come from, and making note of the status and situation of each state as we go. We'll spend most of our time helping each other, and those that are just starting with the work, maybe starting in a new state with events, to those who are already working in ready to ratify states like myself, brainstorming the most impactful actions that we could each undertake. There's always something important to do. And finally, we'll discuss the importance of time. Strategic planning means that you're planning backward from where you want to be. And with the 2022 election exactly 1 year away, it's an important time for us to get perspective. This team is a really conversational group, so whenever you have something to say, just raise your real or electronic hand to get our attention. And so let's see. First of all, the timeline for ratification. The plan that we have in place now discusses getting a version, some version of the amendment through Congress in 2022 or 2023. And so in order to make that happen, that places a tremendous focus on what's going to happen between now and the 2022 election. I'm almost thinking the end of 2022 is not, the holidays, end of the year actually. Is, if you back up, it actually is ending about the time we're mailing in our ballots for the 22 election. So that's cut off a couple months right there for the year. And that's one of the reasons that I'm thinking, wow, it's not even, I think it's a year ago. I think it's a year from today, in fact. So that's important. The other thing is that about our timeline is we have ratification planned in 38 states by 2026. And as it was pointed out to me yesterday when I was presenting to a group that Sarah Turner organized, and she's on our call tonight, I was asked about, gee, isn't 4 years an awfully short time for ratification for a constitutional amendment? I mean, if you consider the Equal Rights Amendment, 4 years is really a short time. I think what we're trying to do here is make as many states as possible ready to ratify in parallel with getting the amendment of the language through Congress. So your work in the coming year could either focus on getting your state, just your state, ready to ratify, or by adding additional members of Congress to co-sponsor or vote for a version of the amendment that will be mutually beneficial. The sooner, the better. Okay, that's all I'm planning to say about the timeline right now. Now we move to the topic of what is an event. We are used to thinking in America Promise about 3 different ways that we work. I'm going to just share this little picture. Maybe we'll be done with this. The 3 parts are I just submitted Hank Myers. Okay. There are 3 different ways that we work, right? Legislative outreach and community outreach. And then there's media. Well, 2 of the 3, we can think in a broad way, could be events. We've been doing Zoom events like crazy with members of Congress the last year and a half. We've also included in this events series, included a lot of detail about tabling. Here's our picture of Leela the very first day we were tabling in San Francisco after I moved back to California 3 years ago. And then the media is where we bring it all together. We can do media proactively to advertise our event. We can get media coverage afterwards. This article in a very small local paper was written by the editor of the local paper, but now that everything is, electronically, you can send media like this around the country, in fact, around the world. So let's talk a little bit. Let's just think about in the world of events, what all possible events could there be? I mean, we have so many experienced people on this call. It's a long list. Anyone, everyone.
Well, tabling, of course,
Tabling, yeah. Tabling where?
everywhere. Tabling at farmers markets, tabling at festivals, tabling downtown, tabling wherever you want to go table.
Mhm. Tabling at Sam Bailey Harris talks.
That's right.
Can I ask a question about the tabling? So, because I'm obviously new to this, what is the objective? Are we getting people to sign something in support? Like, what's the call to action for
Mhm.
tabling?
Well, it could be a whole bunch of things. It depends where we are. Since this is an election year, tabling might be the venue where we are getting access to a new member of Congress or a new member of the legislature, or somebody that we would like to know and haven't run into up to now. It could be just being present in a big event. Janice from Oakland, so you may know about big community events like the Solano Stroll,
Mhm.
where there are hundreds of booths. And when we had a table there, we weren't in the political area, but people would come up to the table and say, "Hey, yours is the only one. I don't know what you do."
Mhm.
So there is a certain element of awareness, but it's also a way to capture media as well. It's a way to get opportunities to speak to other groups, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to write that down, speaking to other groups. Other groups that you don't know about, right? Because people come up to you. So who else has got an answer for Jana?
I think having conversations with people and educating the public, that's really so beneficial.
Mhm.
We get pledges signed in support, and that way we can demonstrate the numbers we have in certain legislative districts to the elected officials. And one cool thing about tabling is you're surrounded by other groups that are tabling, as Laura said. So everybody kind of talks to each other, and you get to know different groups and have different networking opportunities that way.
I love that. I just think it'd be great if we had a template email or something where we were getting people, even in the moment, like, hey, send a note to your congressperson, you're in support of this, or some way of starting to, like, yeah, I think it's great to be out there on a table. I just am all about, okay, how are we measuring whether or not we're making any impact, right? So if we knew we had a goal of getting 100 people to send an email that day, and we had a little template and they could just sign it and send it, like, I guess that would be my vote, like somehow trying to demonstrate, right, hey, what's our goal per state in terms of support that we're trying to generate, to your point, so that when the time comes, each of our states is ready.
Well, one of
And
the
we
things
have postcards. Oh, I'm sorry, Marie. We have postcards people can fill out. We hand deliver them to the state legislators.
Love it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm
Or-
thinking. Like, how do
or
we start
even,
to?
or even better
Yeah.
than that, there's actually been an event that was set up that we were going to participate in, where there was a QR code that
Mhm.
people could scan,
Love it.
and then it had the link to sign the
Love it.
citizen pledge and forward the information on.
And there's one thing that I've been thinking about a lot, but I can't figure out how to really pull it off. And that is, and I worked it all out in my mind, where you get a like a little changing booth you can get from Amazon, just a kind of canvas kind of changing booth, easy to set up, and make it like a phone booth. And you're a superhero. You go in there and make your phone call, and then come out, and you've done your heroic deed for the day. I just just love the idea. I don't know really, the kind of little options to use and what you want to say, but people don't call their legislators. So that's really, oh, here, let's put your the legislator's number in your phone. Step over here. Here's a few different things you might want to say.
I love it.
And
Get
then
out a script.
it's been done. It's been done. So
Yeah.
But I just, like I said, I can't quite get there.
Well, I
pull
think
that off, but
I love that idea, and I love the idea of having a script, right? Here's exactly what you can say, just some quick talking points. Here's the phone numbers. We have it all ready for you. And I actually don't think we need a booth, especially in an era of COVID. So I think, we literally, come call, we'll get you set up. You stand right there and you just call. Right?
Yeah.
I love that idea. You can either do the QR code, you can do a postcard, you can do a call, all different kinds of ways that you could get involved. So I feel like those are all great.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jana, we do have, there is a recorded training call that's just on tabling, just by itself, that we did a couple of months ago.
Great.
As I mentioned, the meetings with legislators are also events, right? Last Monday, Leila and I met with Nancy Pelosi's staff for the second time, which was a lot of fun. I'm just thinking I have to send an event report form in for another one of these, but yeah.
George, speak up. You're very patient with your hand up. Speak up.
Oh no, I need to put my hand down.
Hold on. All right, good. So another one would be getting supporters and building a supporter base. We have in Wisconsin gotten the names of about 11, 12,000 people in our supporter base, and very few, very small percentage, much less than one, will you ever hope to get to work, do anything. But we want to, one day walk into the legislature when we're ready with 100,000 people who have supported it. But we do hope that some of those reporters in our form will say yes when we say, do you want to volunteer? And then we know who to call, and maybe one or two in a year we start working with you.
And is that in a database, or how do you guys have that, George? What does that look like?
It's in a CRM database. That's one of the best ones that our tech guy has set up for us.
Okay.
George, what database is it?
It's called CVCRM, Civic CIVI-CRM, so Civic RM, if you will.
Okay.
We've been through some other databases. One of them is called Salsa, and there's another one, I forget the name of them. I'm not the techie guy, I'm the outreach guy. And but that one seems to have worked the best with us. It's simple, it's free. And so that's something to check into if you want to look into a database.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Are you sending emails or anything to those supporters right now, George, or it's mostly just collecting names?
So we have different levels of blast. So you can do blasts from this thing, right? And some statewide event where we know it's mostly education, we might do this whole state blast to people. But we also have smaller blasts of people who haven't worked with us but are dormant because we don't have the resources to keep them active. But we hope they'll come active when we need them again to do the next level of work. So we use the tool and set up blasts. Jim sets it up and blast files or whatever you call it. That he sends it a full blast or partial blast of some sort, depending on.
Right. And American Promise can tailor the distribution of messages from leaders to geographically diverse folks that have said that they're interested to receive this kind of information.
Yeah, theirs is more sophisticated than ours.
We do try to be organized if we can. In any event, so there's a wide range of events available, right? Everything from taking literally an ironing board and some information to a farmer's market, up to organizing a panel discussion or a movie in a theater with hundreds of people. These things have all been done by by some or others of us over the last several years. And
But he is one that's going to be interested to see. Is he going to try to?
is that Hank?
You're muted, Hank.
If that wasn't me, I think that might have been Chris.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, no, not at all. Sorry. All right.
But, oh, by the way, in terms of some of those movies, one of the key organizations on these types of movies is Point of View by PBS.
Mhm.
And looks like some of you have already been aware of them and worked with them.
Mhm.
But if you're wondering how to connect them, you don't know how, just call your local PBS station and they can give you numbers and addresses and all that stuff.
Right. I'm just putting these the links back in the chat for us. This last one is the one for signing up for the team calls. Okay, so now everybody should have everything that they need in the chat. So, okay, some events are easy, some are hard, but you know, the impact that they have is not about how complicated they are, or even necessarily how many people are attending them, although that always feels nice, right? It doesn't have to be high profile either. It really boils down to your awareness of your state situation and how you can make the greatest impact. And I found that selecting and prioritizing that work and putting it on the calendar is a really important step. So that's where we're trying to get to tonight. What counts is the awareness of our goals, and then we select according to the time and opportunity that we have and people to do the work to get it going. And one of the benefits of planning like this, one of the biggest benefits of going through a strategic planning process like this and putting it on the calendar is that you always have meaningful work ready for all volunteers. So let's talk now in the context of our state situations, which are quite varied based on who's on the call tonight, right? Let's go around the room, say our name, where you're from, and then the status and situation in your state. And I'm going to just share one more slide asking you about the things to consider, for which I've maintained this little photo of Ted Deutsch because he makes me happy in terms of doing the work to lead Congressman on the House Joint Resolution 1 in the House. So your situation includes, what is your state status? That means, are you just getting started up? Are you building support in your state right now? Or are you working in a state that's already ready to ratify by some official either vote or legislative action? You might also consider your level of experience, the size or experience or interest and skills in your team, your access to members of Congress, and maybe not any old members, but ones that we really need and would like to attract to this work. And then finally, whether or not yours, if you know that your state is the ratification process will be done legislatively purely, or whether or not the referendum is available. It's about 50-50, right? In California, we have a referendum situation. So the voters have spoken in a way. So someone can go. Who's first?
I'll go. What the heck?
Yeah.
Michigan is an interesting situation. We've been working on this since summer of 18. At this juncture, what we're doing is a campaign to secure passage of resolutions. At this point, we've got about 5 or 6 areas now being pursued. Our first resolution was passed in the capital area with the Ingham County Board of Commissioners, unanimously passed by an even board of Republicans and Democrats. We were pleased to see. The resolution calls for both a state effort to bring transparency to election money, and as well as the federal election, or the federal 28th Amendment effort. So both of those things are in the resolution. Michigan's got some complexity that I suspect our friends in Texas who aren't here would be appreciative. Of course, Chris is from Texas, but we're one of the states that are battling the ALEC bundle of voter suppression bills.
Mhm.
And we have a Republican House and Senate. We have a Democratic governor who keeps things from getting too stupid. And what has recently developed is the legislators have decided to pursue a voter ballot initiative to secure passage of the things that the governor is vetoing. And it's a really interesting complication for us, because when a ballot measure, when you get enough signatures for a ballot measure, the legislature can, at their sole initiative, decide to actually create a bill and pass it. But you've got to get the right number of signatures. And it's 325,000 for a statute and 420,000 for a constitutional amendment. Once they can create that law and then pass it, the governor has no right to do anything with it. And so as a result, it's an end run to get what they can't get from the legislative process. It also is a sobering kind of reality that 340,000 people can decide to sign for this thing. And then you have the legislature who can use their slim majorities now, they used to be much bigger, to basically turn it into law. Further complicating it is the legislature. There's another thing that gets in the way of a subsequent legislature trimming the effect of the law, given the law was created by the people. And so there's a whole lot of deep inhaling going on, and thinking about, okay, what do we do about this? And it's real hard to win an argument, which is voters decline to sign, trying to get enough people to do that. Well, we got 340,000 people in this state that'll sign damn near anything. And so it's a real threat. So that's pulling air out of what we're trying to do.
It sounds like you've been working in this field for many years.
Mhm.
You're in the situation where you're building support in your state.
That's correct.
And you have opportunities, but it sounds like you have challenges and opportunities for the next year to bring Michigan along.
Right.
I think there are other folks on the call too that are in the same, not the same, but similar situation, and that they're also in the building support states, right? Who else is there?
Yep, in Minnesota, Move to Amend started working here back in 2012. And so we had 3 cities, the major cities, Duluth, St. Paul, and Minneapolis, pass resolutions calling on the amendment. And then we launched American Promise here in early 2017. And we've had 5 more local governments pass resolutions. So we're using the local resolution effort to help build our membership. We have both of our senators are just now, Amy Klobuchar put her name on it. So both of our senators are co-sponsors of HJR or SJR 25, and 3 of the 8 House members are on HJR 1. One of them is on HJR 48, so she just didn't put her name on HJR 1 yet. So we're half of our members of Congress support the amendment officially. So we're working on continuing to build and work in specific congressional districts to try and make traction, usually with that member of Congress, but primarily with their state legislators, so that we can put pressure on the members of Congress in those areas. So we are technically, well, not ready to ratify. We do not have the ballot initiative capability, but we've had some recent changes in both our Senate and our House that might get us hearings on the resolutions that have been introduced in a statewide manner every biennium since the Citizens United ruling. So we have reason to be optimistic that it will happen, but I can't tell you. It could surprise us and happen this first part of 2022, but more than likely it'll probably not be until 2024 or so.
So Minnesota is in a building support situation, and you have a legislative process that you're working towards. So this is an important idea, because it means that you're targeting perhaps state representatives, which other states who are already ready to ratify may not spend any time doing activities like that, events that support that particular venue. And Wisconsin?
Yeah, so you can see behind me, we're not an American Promise affiliate. We are
Yes.
partnered with American Promise, right? We have been from the start. As a matter of fact, Jeff called us up before he started American Promise to talk about what we were doing. We started the month after Citizens United with Mutual Men, working with them. And then and Judy, and I'm sorry, and then Vicki was here then, and she was getting ready to help us with Oshkosh. And Vicki knows we almost got somebody getting Oshkosh last before the pandemic hit. We were going to try to get that. So from a legislative perspective, I would bet, though I haven't done the math, that we are one of the worst Republican Party controlled states in the country. They have so much power. The gerrymandering is one of the best gerrymanderings in the country. And right now, we had that group to go for that. Fair Maps doing a lot of work, which we supported, called Fair Elections, and got resolution referendum. And right now, it's about to go to the courts again. Some of you might know we were in the Supreme Court cases that the Supreme Court ultimately said we're not going to do anything, and so we had to go to the way we are. So point is, I don't want to take too much time because I want to hear from the American House people, is that we're not going to be ratified. We're likely to be number 33 than 23 in the ratification. I'm sorry.
33 is what we're going to need.
Well, that's right. So we're building the movement. We're focusing on educating, getting people on board, getting supporters, getting resolutions. We passed so far 166 resolutions around the state, and my goal is 200, which I was hoping would be 2021, but that was 2 years ago. 2022, but that was 2 years ago. Now I have to go to 2024. So we're supporters, and actually, thanks to Vicki, I got involved. American Promise was here a couple weeks ago in Green Bay, and I'm hooked up now in support of American Promise's work with the head of the Rotary Club in Green Bay.
Right.
And we're going to try to get into that. So I'm going to be working with her in the spring. We said we'd be talking in the spring and seeing how I can support the American Promise approach, because American Promise, all your approaches are different than ours. So our approach is different than you right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your approach in Wisconsin right now with this is to get the larger businesses to pass resolutions, which we don't have access to. So it makes sense for me to team with American Promise to help them get this woman to get that done. And I've talked to her and already told her maybe we'll give some presentations around the state to the Rotary clubs if you get them. I've already spoken to 2 Rotary clubs in the past years and trying to get involved. And that was one of the ways that we get out to people you asked about besides tabling is go out and give presentations. And that's what we do a lot of, right? So that's how we get our 166 working towards 200. So
absolutely, that's fantastic.
Right, so I'm going to turn it over now because more important, you guys talk to each other about how you're doing it in American Promise.
No, I think you brought up several of the concepts that we were looking to discuss, right? We were talking about in building support states. It seems though the states we have now are, the legislative process is the one that's most important. The work that you've highlighted about the local resolutions is another thing that we in California don't think about doing so much. Thank goodness. It'd be sounds like it would be like a lot of work with the state so big, but no, this is exactly the kind of thing. I think your work with the Rotaries is so important for cross-partisan work, right? We are a cross-partisan, we are a national cross-partisan organization, and we know that we want partnerships between supportive candidates and anyone that's in the Republican Party for sure. We know that we have a broad base of Republican support, but we have difficulty in building that the political courage for people to say the extent of their support. I heard that before I came to California, New Jersey. My very first meeting was my local Republican House member, and it was good we were quiet because he spent the whole meeting telling us everything we would have told him. I hate money in politics. I feel guilty about it. I never make enough. And then what's so wrong is the people who are giving you money expect you to do stuff for them. The whole thing, just by hearing him talk, it was clear he was a supporter, and he was scrambling when we showed him a bill that we wanted him to consider co-sponsoring. Actually, our ask was, you've worked with some of the people that are co-sponsors of this bill. Maybe you could talk to them about this one too. His eyes were scanning the list. Please let me see. Or wait, are these all Democrats? No, I said, there's one. There's Walter Jones. And he didn't think that was, what was not a satisfying answer for him. Because that representative wasn't somebody that he was considering a strong enough partner at the time. But this is how we have to build support every day, seeking out new members to talk with us about their concerns, to talk with us about the language, and to work through the state legislative representatives and senators in order to get this done state by state. So I really applaud the depth and extent of your work in Wisconsin. It's fantastic. Do we have anybody else from building your support state? I'm looking at who we have. Let's see. We have a few Californians. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. We have New Jersey.
Laura, one thing I would add about Michigan.
Yes.
When it comes time for passage, Michigan limits its referenda to strictly state government law. So as a result, what it means is only the legislature can enact for the state of Michigan the 28th Amendment when it gets here.
Okay. That's actually a kind of a special nuance I didn't realize. There
Right.
probably are a few other nuances in the states about how the local laws work. This is why we're having the conversation, right? No one can know the details but you and your own situation in your state. And it takes a while, if you're just starting up, to learn the ins and outs of how your state government works with something as big as a constitutional amendment federally.
Oh, could I ask George a question?
Of course.
George, do you know or have a contact with the Green Bay individual? The reason why I ask is we've prepared our materials and we're about to launch, if you will, an offering to the various Rotaries in Michigan. And so we're going to agree completely with what you said, Laura, that it's a really ripe way to get bipartisanship, because what you're dealing with in most cases usually is smaller business owners who are much more on the receiving end of the doings of corporate America and American policy. So they're not happy. And so we're really trying, we agree that that's a very, a real good fulcrum to be able to get into the conservative circles. And I'd like to kind of share notes and our experiences with the AP folks in Green Bay, because it sounds like they're specializing or focusing on that as well.
So again, we're a partner. We don't have AP groups here,
Right.
right?
Right.
So we have the United to Amend groups. People.
Okay. Now,
and-
maybe I misunderstood, George. I thought I heard you say something about APs trying to crank up something in Green Bay.
No, you didn't misunderstand. So 2 weekends ago, this was,
Right.
Jeff was here with the new guy that took Azo's job. I forget his name now. I had good talk. with him.
Ellen, La Police.
Yeah, Alan, the police, they came up and we supported them, tried to help them, and I was there. I ran up from Madison, I'm in Madison. And they were here because the woman who is the president of the Rotary of Green Bay, which is a big Rotary, right? It's a bigger city, not as big as Madison, Milwaukee, but it's a bigger city. Is a member of AP. As a matter of fact, she's got her profile up on the site if you want,
Okay.
on AP site.
Okay.
And so she wants to get her Rotary active, and this was the introduction. So they gave presentations to the members of her club,
Okay.
but they opened it up, and we invited some of our people to come in. Not too many did come, but a couple of us they were there supporting. So she's just. The reason I said to her, "Can I call you in the spring?" is I know she needs a whole winter to try to figure out how to get her club to, right, her group.
Right.
So
Right.
she's just starting and doesn't have anything. But I gave 2 presentations to smaller Rotary clubs around the state because I could get an audience, and that's one of the things that I offered that we should be doing, is doing those presentations to those groups. I've talked to optimist clubs, the school union clubs. I'm trying to find a contact who knows somebody in one of these clubs and get in there and give them my 45-minute presentation 15 minutes after. So that's the approach we're taking, and that you probably want to do is find somebody who knows somebody in the Rotary to get in.
Yeah.
And I'd be glad to talk to you about anything I've learned if you want to personally send me an email, but that's where that is.
Thanks, George.
Other people
Can
may
I-
want. Go ahead.
Well, can I just jump in, because this has come up in several conversations the past few weeks with American Promise. And we talked to Jeff when he was here about it, because we've had trouble getting in with the Rotary here. We had one guy was all gung ho about it, and but the president of the Rotary was too afraid to touch it as a political thing. And I even sent him the Rotary presentation that Don Bender had provided to us, and they just couldn't convince him. They were too. They went through a lot of turmoil after the election. This particular Rotary split in half because of a political division. So Jeff said to us, he said, what you do is, if you find, tell them, hey, we have a regular meeting, Rotary meeting of American Promise, and we'd love to have you just come and join the call and just listen and hear what we do and how this aligns with the Rotary work. Just throw it out there like it's an existing thing, even though it's not.
Right.
And then when they take the bait, then we put together a meeting. But because there've been so many questions about the Rotary, I think we need to have a Rotary specific event and have Don Bender and the group get on and advise us the best way to approach the Rotary. Is it better to go to the district or to go the grassroots part, that type of thing, and how to make sure we use a message that will resonate with the Rotarians. They have every year the president of Rotary International comes up with a theme, and the theme is service. It's always service, right? But it's a serving with a purpose or something. So there's a specific theme. So maybe they could even help us, come up with a message that references the current theme and would help get us in the door. So if I'll be happy to try and get something set up for a Rotary event for national, and we can all join that if that sounds good to you guys.
We actually have had some trainings from the Rotary on a Rotary presentation in the last couple of years. So if folks who are listening to this call may be interested in that, you might inquire and look on the YouTube channel. It doesn't mean that you have to start with PowerPoints from scratch. There are materials available that can be modified. And it's also really important to know your local situation is the most important thing. This is why if you're new to the community, you won't have a chance to have the Rotary presentation, but I could have done them in New Jersey, no problem, because I lived there 30 years. You know, if your next door neighbor is in Rotary, or your father-in-law is in Rotary, your grandfather is in Rotary, you know, it does not a foreign concept. You're not from the moon, you're just part of the community. And this kind of conversation is something we all have the opportunity to take up well. So yeah, I'd love to see more Rotary. Is a very fruitful future for the work we're going to be doing.
By the way, I've got a slide deck that I used for the Rotary presentation back in 19. I'm revising it somewhat to incorporate some of Bender's stuff that they did a wonderful job of tying, you know, our goals to their themes. And so I'm
Yeah,
doing
they're
a little
pillars.
bit of,
Mhm.
so I'm doing some adjustments to that right now. So I'd be happy to share, just to salt other people's ideas when that deck is done.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had planned also to spend a few minutes talking about states that are just starting up. We don't have anyone brand new in new states on the call tonight, but I do remember very clearly just tabling when I first came to California. It so happened we were tabling, and maybe that wasn't the best thing for the moment, but it was a start. So I'd like to have just a 2-minute conversation about, if you're just getting started, you probably have a lot to learn, right? You're learning how to speak about the issue, or you're just getting your materials together. Leila and I didn't even have a group, right? We were just 2 people. And we met every other Sunday for about a year. And that year we did 9 events, which culminated in the launch of a chapter here. But what would the other experienced people say about, if you're just getting started, how do you get started? And what do you learn in those first couple of events that you do?
I would say, you know, starting in a state that already had a non-binding resolution passed in New Jersey, but being new to organizing, I tried to attend a lot of different civic events to meet and network with various civic events. Some League of Women Voters, there were some civic organizations that were involved in voter registration apart from League of Women Voters, some climate organizations that are particular here to New Jersey that are not national, just various ways to meet organizations that might have an interest in getting money out of politics and might be interested in having a presentation and putting together a presentation, just 15-minute presentation that could be part of a regular business meeting for that organization, and you know, getting our name out there and getting some exposure to people who are civically minded. I thought was very helpful in getting started.
Great. Someone else? Let's see. Well, we have 2 people from New Jersey, right? And a couple people from California. Yep.
So
Okay.
in Minnesota, yeah, I just I did the same thing. I joined everything. I attended all kinds of stuff just to meet people, and because I was brand new to Minnesota too. So
Right.
And I was specifically looking for conservatives. So I lived in the Twin Cities, so I had to venture out And I joined groups on social media, and actually, you know, one of the big things there was a meeting one night with this group, and I emailed the organizer and asked if I could come and give a little 10-minute, you know, discussion information on what I'm working on, and they said yes. And you know, it took off after that. That's, you know, that one meeting with maybe, you know, 15, 20 people, and I ended up with about 8 volunteers, and we got a county resolution passed within, you know, 6 months. So you just keep putting yourself out there and keep trying, and then eventually it just organically happens, and then suddenly you're asked to speak different places, and your name's getting spread around, and it picks up. So
And then you're solidly into building support.
yep.
Okay.
One
Now
other
that,
thought. Go ahead.
not to short the discussion by a few minutes, being a member of Ready to Ratify state, right? So we have a few New Jersey folks and California people. There are really a number of things we can do, and here the goal is something a little bit different, because we're not trying to add a state to the list of 22 on our way to 38 directly, although it may be possible if we're working just with the federal members of Congress, right? So if you have already a supportive member of Congress, what we train is, anytime you're meeting with a supportive member of Congress, you're always asking, is there someone you may be partnering with that you've worked on other projects? They may know someone that may be amenable to this conversation. They may be able to take up that conversation themselves. There may be a number of ways. There could also be, who do you know? Just who do you know in other states? I asked my House member, who do you know? And he gave me the name of someone in Nebraska, and it turns out that is the representative for my cousin that I haven't seen in decades. So there's, you know, it's really a small world. And if we are just asking and thinking and talking about this in the right way, there could be things we can do there. One thing that we're going to be doing in California, just to tee this up for next year, is we're going to be educating voters on the positions of the candidates for federal election using the candidate pledge ahead of time. So we did this last time, right? It was just a year ago, and the sad thing was we didn't plan well. We didn't have enough time. We thought, oh, you know, with 53 congressional districts, we're going to have to really prioritize. We're just going to go after the close races. We'll just ask candidate pledges for the 2 top candidates in each district, where they stand, and we'll publish a press release before the election that shows how much money the candidates have and what their stance has been on the amendment. Now in California, we have had 40, up until last year, we had something like 40 co-sponsors of previous versions. Actually, in truth, the same language as House Joint Resolution 1. But we asked the folks that were running against them, where do you stand? And we were able to assign 2 Republicans that way. And it was it's elating, because then you can really say to the public and to the press, this is a cross-partisan issue. This is not about any other policy. In order to make this a voting issue for next year, we feel that this is something that we can do. But we need plans to get through this, because we know if we're going to make media reports throughout the year, or even right ahead of the election, whoever we're going to get to in media, we have to be out there at least 6 weeks ahead of the election if everybody's mailing ballots 3 weeks ahead, right? So, and then the sheer numbers of them. I may not have volunteers to do 108 candidates, but prioritizing that work is something we're starting now. Because I was, having been in the crunch last year, we started in July. We thought we would do 5 districts. We wound up doing 14. And most of that work was done not by me or other members of the group, but by volunteers we had never met. People who said they were interested to help. They filled in the names, the addresses, they made the phone calls to the candidates, and they got through, sometimes on the 10th phone call, but managed to get names and boxes pretty much throughout the chart we wanted to send to the press. So what else are the people able to do and ready to ratify states to add to the national cause?
Well, Laura, being from New Jersey, the other ready to ratify state that we represent tonight, what you had mentioned about working with the current co-sponsors, doing things like we've been talking about in the, I prefer the name Getting Elected Officials to Act advocacy team rather than the Citizen Lobby for Action team. But anyway, that team. We've been talking about working with our legislators, if they are already supporters, and not saying, great, they're a supporter, done with them. Now we want them to collaborate with us on op-eds. We want them to lead caucus or congressional delegate letters from the state to say, please sign on, because we're not to the 220 that have signed on and co-sponsored in the last Congress yet. We are, working with them to move them up the champion scale, to get them to do more and more and help to leverage their voices to advance our amendment work as well as our own voices. The other thing that here in New Jersey that we're trying to get ready for as well, that'll work for next year, but ongoing, is even though there were local resolutions and so on, getting ready for the non-binding resolution that was passed in 2012, it was 2012. So starting that local resolution process again, and I think particularly targeting areas that are in congressional districts of congressional members who don't support yet, and also bringing the state legislature's awareness up about, hey, this is something that's really being worked on. It may be coming back to the state within the next couple of years for ratification at the state level. It's crucial. So that is something, the candidate pledge is something we were going to work on, of course, but I really like your idea of using it to leverage press coverage about the positions of the candidates for the congressional races, and then also the local resolutions.
Mm-hmm. That came from New Jersey, by the way. That was New Jersey to Everton Citizens United. That did the first, well, in a state with 12 districts, was able to publish the opinion or the stance of all the candidates the year before I started to take this work myself. So yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm excited about it, and it's easy to train people to do it. And it's very satisfying. The candidates love it too, because they know if they're signing on that will help them early and often with their voice on this issue. We are short now on conversation time about timing, but we will continue this conversation in January.
Laura, can I add something? I want to put a plug in. Next Thursday night is the meeting of the dual name Getting Elected Officials to Act / Citizen Lobby for Action team. And we are, because we have worked through the whole champion scale and all the various methods and tactics to use where no matter where your legislator is on the champion scale, from opposed to champion. What we're going to do next week is we're going to present some information again about getting ready to do op-ed pieces and letters to the editor for the anniversary of the decision in Citizens United, which comes January 21st.
Right.
Number one, following up on getting face-to-face, whether it be by Zoom or in person meetings with our congressional lobby day meetings from back in May to leverage that. And also we're going to have a good section on basically having people say, this is my legislator and this is where they are. And I just can't get them to move to the next level, whether it be opposed to neutral or neutral to supporter or supporter to activist. And we're going to go over, okay, well, this is what have you done so far? What are you going to do moving forward? So, unfortunately, I don't have the link to put in the chat, but it is on the AP calendar. So sign on and join us. Vicki and
It's
I.
okay. We actually have the links now for signing up for the other calls, which you can, as you've heard, the training team calls are reinforcing, right?
Mhm.
Some are planning, some are writing, some are meeting. It's a package of ongoing discussion. So
So that's the getting officials to act one, Marie.
Yeah, on the AP calendar, it'll say citizen lobby for action or something like
Yeah,
that.
I'm not on the
It's
AP calendar,
perfect.
but I do see it on the Google form. So I think
Yeah.
I can click
You'll
a
be
box
able
on
to-
there.
Yeah.
you'll be able to click it for sure, Janet. That's definitely.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for attending the organizing events.
And so, I'm sorry, Laura, there's no meeting in December? Is that what you're saying? The next
I was
meeting is
just gonna say
January?
that. We're gonna
Sorry.
take a break for the holidays, but we hope this discussion will launch good plans and dreams for next year, right? As you consider your state strategy and you get your new calendar for 2022, I'd recommend that you review the excellent Ready to Ratify training that was done by Azer Cole on January 5th, 2021, at the beginning of this year. I've put the link for that particular training in the chat, and you can find others like this and a wealth of other trainings on the American Promise YouTube channel. So our next call will be the first Tuesday of the month in January, January 3rd, 7:30 Eastern time. And it's
One it's going to be interesting to see.
Sorry,
is they're gonna
guys.
Try to
great to be partners with you guys in this work. Thanks very much.
Thank
Great
you.
meeting, great
Good night,
meeting,
everybody.
Laura.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Take care. Bye,
Yeah.
George.
And Laura, can you hang on for a second after it's done?